The standard approach to treating pain from golfers or tennis elbow is missing some key elements. In this video, you're going to discover what these elements are and 4 unique exercises to get everything working properly so you can decrease your elbow pain and get back to doing what you love to do. Coach E from Precision Movement here. Welcome to another video where we're going to help you to move freely and without pain. Today we're going to be talking about golfer's elbow over here, medial epicondylitis, or tennis elbow over here, lateral epicondylitis. And funny thing is, golfers tend to suffer more from the lateral or tennis elbow. And the bottom line is that these names, golf, tennis, they don't matter, because this type of elbow pain on the inside or the outside can happen to anybody, especially if you're using your arms, you're grabbing heavy weights, or you're shooting a hockey puck or swinging a baseball bat. Whatever it is you do with your hand, if you do something with your hands a lot and you do it intensely, then you could suffer from this pain. Now we've got a few videos that are pretty popular on these subjects already, but we continue to learn new things, we continue to experiment, and we gain experience in working with people. And now we've got some updated information for you. So if you like to stay up to date with the latest and greatest, then make sure you subscribe to our channel, because you never know when we're gonna publish a new video on a topic that we might have published in the past where we've learned something new. So hit that subscribe button and join the 330,000 plus who are already subscribed. Now today, there are a couple of common approaches that I wanna break down real quick. And one is, you'll see these stretches. Very common if you search Google, YouTube, you'll see these wrist stretches for elbow and tennis elbow and golfer's elbow. We don't use these stretches at all. Instead, we use active self-myofascial release, which I'm going to talk about when I demonstrate the first technique. But we don't do these common stretches, and we find them more detrimental than beneficial. Number 2 is eccentric exercises. You might have heard of eccentric exercises for tennis or golfer's elbow. Again, this is a very, very common approach in the physiotherapy world. And it's something that we could use a little bit, but it's not the be-all, end-all. You need eccentric, you need concentric, you need isometric. We're going to go through a lot of isometric stuff today. You need all the different muscle actions. And there's no magic bullet from one or the other. You got to train them all. You got to restore function, strength, and stability to the elbow and to other joints. And that's how you're going to get long-term results. So our approach addresses the commonly missed elements when it comes to elbow pain. And number 1 is elbow stability. You rarely hear the term elbow stability, you rarely see it trained, and that's something that's very important to a healthy elbow joint. And we're going to go through that specifically in the second exercise. Number 2 is shoulder range of motion and scapular stability. This is fairly well known, and we're going to go through one exercise that's going to be really beneficial for both. And number 3 is posture. Posture is not often addressed, and Dr. B often talks about some research from, I believe it's Kibler, that shows a large amount of force goes through the elbow, or a large increase in force goes through the elbow with poor posture and poor scapular stability. So it increases the strain that goes through the elbow, and obviously over time, that'll result in premature wear and tear. So those are the missing key elements to addressing elbow pain for good. Now let's go through the exercises that will address these missing elements. The first is active self-myofascial release for the wrist flexors. I'm going to focus here, but you can do the same on the wrist extensors. And for this technique, you want to start with flexion at the wrist. You can start with flexion at the elbow. You can start with your thumb pressing down into the palm, and then you extend everything and just drag the thumb up. And you keep going for 1 to 2 minutes in different areas. So you're going on different lines up the forearm, and you can start mid-forearm, going right up into the elbow and even into the bicep, past the elbow, between the bicep and the brachialis, right in there. And just 1 point, if you've got a sensitive medial epicondyle, this bone right here, you don't want to jam right over it or put a lot of force and pressure right over it. Wait until it calms down, and then you can go over it, but go over it gently. There's some nerves that could be exposed there. And if you've got elbow pain around this area, the likelihood of your tendon being a little irritated is very high. So you just want to be a little more gentle around that area. So this addresses flexibility and tissue quality in the forearms and across the wrist here. And this is superior to static stretching, because one thing with static stretching is, let's say you got a knot or some adhesions in some of the layers of the muscles or between the fascia and the muscles. If you stretch, those locked up and glued up areas are not going to be stretched through because they're strong. Where you're going to stretch through is the already pliable tissue. So you're not even going to address the issue in the forearm if you have these problems like scar tissue or adhesions. So that's why active self-myofascial release is far superior. The other component is you've got activity, active, so you're firing up muscles to extend the wrist, and this is going to help the neuromuscular system to restore this good movement pattern and this range of motion. And when you have the neuromuscular system involved, then you have more long-term and persistent results in range of motion and flexibility and mobility. So do that 1 to 2 minutes per side. Do both sides. It's good for you, especially if you're gripping and lifting weights. You're always using both sides. So do both sides, and then that's going to lead perfectly into the next exercise. And this is a unique one that we've used to help people out with long-standing elbow pain where previous approaches did not help. This one exercise should become a staple in your warm-ups and in your rehab if you ever have any issues with the elbows. And it's the extended elbow wrist flex, or wrist fan, we call it sometimes. But I call it the wrist flex now. And there's a few key elements with this exercise. One, start off with the elbow bent, and then you fire up the biceps and triceps. So you activate those muscles, and you keep the biceps and triceps on the whole time. Then you go to extension of the elbow. Bis and tris are on. Hand is in this extended flared position. And then you extend the wrist. The biceps and triceps are on. You maintain terminal elbow extension, a straight elbow. Extend the wrist, keep activating here, hold for 5. And then you flex the wrist, keeping the fingers flared like so. Hold for 5, go to neutral. Elbow, biceps, and triceps are still on. And then you gradually relax everything down. So again, let me walk you through that. The pointers are cue, follow along with me because we're just standing here. So start with the elbow bent, activate biceps and triceps, keep them on the whole time. Straighten the elbow slowly so you can be aware of your biceps and triceps. And then once your elbow is fully straight, extend the wrist with the flared fingers, really focusing on that bicep, tricep. Don't let the hand torque at all. Pull the hand straight back, and then keeping that flared position of the hand, flex the wrist, keeping the elbow straight. Don't bend the elbow. Keep trying to get deeper into the wrist flexion, but keeping the elbow straight. And then go to neutral wrist, bend the elbow back to the start position, and then relax everything. So what this is training is an often missed element at the elbow, which is stability generated from the biceps and the triceps activation. So when we fire that up and we keep it on during the wrist movements, whenever you're doing wrist movements in your sport, you've already trained that pattern to have bicep and tricep active. So we need all the muscles that cross the elbow joint to be active and to be strong and contributing to stability of the joint. And the biceps and triceps is one, especially if you're a gym rat. You might have been trained out of using the bis and tris when you do exercises like rows, push-ups, or presses, or pull-ups. And you may have been taught to focus on strong grip and activate the shoulders, the big muscles around the shoulders. But we need those biceps and triceps working to provide that stability and keep the elbow joint healthy. So for this technique, do 2 sets, 3 reps per side, holding for anywhere from 5 to 10 seconds with each move position of the wrist, and that'll be good for you for that technique. The third elbow pain exercise I'd like to share with you today is the shoulder external rotation supination ratcheting technique. So shoulder external rotation is like that, or rotating the palms up, and then supination is at the forearm, rotating the palms up. So we're going to cut these movements into 2 and then combine them into one exercise. So how this goes is you start off in good posture. So you're training that posture component by standing up in good alignment. And from here, start with the elbows bent. You're going to supinate as much as you can and then externally rotate. And you're continuing to try to supinate and externally rotate even though I'm not moving. This is the isometric at the end range. So I'm holding that activation pattern for about 5 seconds, and then I straighten my elbows and then continue to try to supinate a little more and externally rotate a little more. I can pinch the shoulder blades back together a bit. Hold that for 5 seconds. And this is the ratcheting, where I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna try to externally rotate and supinate in this position again, holding for 5, and it's work. These muscles are on. So if you're not feeling it, you've got to activate more. And then I go back to straighten the elbow and get a little more ER, external rotation, and a little more supination. Maintaining good alignment. You do one more cycle. So here, supinate hard. You could supinate more with the elbow bent because the biceps get more involved. Keep driving the thumbs back. That gets the external rotation. And then down. Keep trying to supinate. Keep trying to externally rotate and get deep in the shoulders to externally rotate. And then gradually let it go. And I promise you, if you didn't do that with me right there, that when you do that, immediately, once you let go, you'll feel more upright. Shoulders are back. It's a really great exercise to get the shoulders back and restore good alignment and posture to the shoulder girdle and to the thoracic spine. I'm going to have more resources for you at the end of this video to further dive into those topics. So that's the shoulder external rotation, supination, ratcheting technique. Do 2 sets for 3 cycles, holding each position for 5 to 10 seconds for that exercise. The fourth and final exercise to treat your tennis or golfer's elbow is to activate a muscle known as the Pronator Quadratus. This muscle goes right around here, and the reason that we're going to activate this muscle is because during the pronation movement, which is a common movement that we need in sport, especially tennis and golf, then if this muscle, the Pronator Quadratus, isn't firing properly, then some other muscle has to pick up the slack. What muscle might that be? It might be the Pronator teres, which goes right around here. And the more muscles that we rely on to do all the work that go and insert into this medial epicondyle, the more stress goes through that area and the earlier wear and tear and breakdown and pain occur. So we just got to get the other muscles that can take some of the stress off of this area working properly. For this technique, I like to use a band at about, when your arm is down by your side, at hand level. Just grab onto it with a palm up grip, a supinated grip. So I've got a little tension there. And from here, I'm going to activate my triceps and keep those triceps on and keep that elbow straight. By activating the triceps, that's going to help to shut off the Pronator Quadratus. So I'm continuing to try to straighten the elbow here and keeping a straight elbow. I'm just focused on rotating the forearm down, not so much the shoulder. Keep the bicep pointing forward, but the forearm down, hold it for 5 seconds, and then slowly open it back up, return to the start position, and then you repeat. So active tricep to straighten the elbow, keep the tricep on, pronate the forearm, hold that for 5 seconds, and slowly go back. And we'll do that one more time. I can reset in between, straighten the elbow, get the tris on, get some tension right off the bat. So we're working through full range of motion. This Pronator Quadratus muscle. Rotate the forearm down, pronate, hold for 5, breathe, keep the shoulder girdle in good position, and then slowly this eccentric return to the start position. And where you should feel that, start to feel that, is right down in this area, working that muscle and getting it online to take stress off the medial epicondyle area. So those are 4 unique exercises that I'm guessing you haven't seen all of them before. You might have seen 1 or 2 before, especially if you've been a part of our channel and following our channel for a little while. But that outlines our approach. It gives you an idea of our overall holistic approach to dealing with elbow pain. If you enjoyed that and you learned something new, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to our channel to continue on this journey with us, because we're learning as we're going, as are you. So let's walk this journey together And we've got a couple other resources that will be really beneficial for you. Some videos up here. One is on the serratus anterior for scapular stability. The other is on hunchback posture, one exercise that is really, really beneficial to address posture problems. And finally, check out the elbow pain solution, which it might not be out yet. If it's not out, get on the wait list. But that program is going to walk you through this approach, but it goes more in depth with many different exercises, more than 30 exercises in multiple phases to get everything working properly for long-term results. So make sure you check out that program. Thanks again for watching. Keep moving.